Casual discussions with the boys.
Come on, Peter Tingle.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Casual Discussions with the boys. Episode 24, I think. Yep. So our last one was Endgame, which everyone was very excited for. This next one is actually the last one of Phase 3, which is a bit sad to say, but at the same time, it's nice to know we're finally moving forward into Phase 4. We're almost up to date, pretty much, so that's exciting. But not as exciting as I thought, because as you can see, there's only...
Yeah, there's not many of us.
I think to everyone else, Endgame was the last movie. That's why no one's rocked up.
Yeah,
that's my theory as well. But you know, the show goes on, right, boys? So we are doing Spider-Man: Far From Home. Full disclosure, Malika hasn't seen this since the movies. So it
like
may
about
be
15 or 16 of our other podcasts.
yeah. So it may just be me and David carrying the helm, or carrying it. But we still have the segments, so that kind of directs us a little bit, and we'll just do what we do. So, Spider-Man: Far From Home. First segment, Phase 1, which is out of the cave, what we thought coming out of the cinema, and if this movie be worthy, which is the positives. I think I'll kick it off for this one. Out of the cave, I loved this movie. I was actually being considerate because the fact is this had a hard job. It was after Endgame, so you had to kind of get over the hype of the end. So I really enjoyed, but also the fact that it was Mysterio, who's like one of my favorite villains of Spider-Man. That was a big help to me in regards to walking into this movie. And let me just say, they did him justice. They did him well. But yeah, Out of the Cave, I actually really enjoyed this movie. It's definitely way more than a box of scraps. I will say it was a bit weird. I mean, I'm pretty sure we all went into it wondering why the heck there was another movie in Phase 3. But I think we realized it was a Sony power play trying to get another movie in for Spider-Man. So yeah, that's
It plays no real part of Phase 3.
Yeah.
It doesn't bring anything to Phase 3.
It felt like a Phase 4 because it was continuing the story on. But I guess the Phase 3 parts was the whole holding on to Iron Man kind of thing, which some people liked and some people really didn't like, including Grant. But Grant's not here to say, so
his opinion means nothing.
But yeah, before I go to the worthy bits, Malika, do you want to say you're Out of the Cave?
From memory, I do think I enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed this in the movies. It has, unfortunately, because it was so long ago, I can't comment on soundtrack. I can't remember it. But I do remember walking out. I thought it has its funny bits. It's typical. Yes, it wasn't Disney Marvel, but it still had its elements of humor coming in from his friend and just the parts of the movie. Mysterio, I think, I know we do this later, but he may be the MVP of this movie, not Spider-Man.
I agree.
If it were a different character, a different actor, it may not have gone the way the movie did. I think what hyped me more than anything in the movie was the end. I'm not saying that as the end of the movie, but the after credits.
The Skrulls.
I did think
Skrulls.
Oh no, sorry, no, sorry, the end of the movie. I'm getting confused. The Skrulls was cool with Sword, because then that brought in Phase 4. But like that whole revealing who Spider-Man is.
Oh right, yeah.
Like a scroll.
With J. Jonah Jameson. Yeah.
Yeah,
Who could
and
be a
they
Skrull.
and they give away his identity. But yes, the scroll thing, I completely forgot about that until now. That was quite cool because then that was the first real introduction to Phase 4, or the first thing that we thought, oh yeah, they might do that next phase. And they sort of left it open-ended. Whether, we'll see a bit of it in 4, but we don't know if it will be like, because I think Sony put that in. They probably had a bit of input from Disney, but you don't know if it was exactly the same lines that they were going on. But yeah, like I didn't walk out disappointed. Like it wasn't a Iron Man 3 or a Thor 2 sort of walking out and going, no, that wasn't that great.
Yeah, that's true. I think the movies like that, yeah, Iron Man 3 and what was after Infinity War?
Ant-Man? No.
Nah, that was after
Ant-Man and
Age
the
of
Wasp.
Ultron. Yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp. So those were the two that were like, after a big movie, it was just like, that was a bit of a letdown. But yeah, this one.
I didn't feel that for Ant-Man and Wasp. But
I did when I first watched it. But yeah, it changed for me with Iron Man 3 as well. But yeah, anyways, David, your Out of the Cave experience.
Yeah, well, when I first watched Black Widow, basically how I felt was no. Sorry.
Black Widow.
it's a better movie.
But they're both spiders, you know. That's how I'm crossing
The
over,
ultimate
you know.
showdown.
Like speaking of spiders,
Arachnophobia.
But that's the ultimate segue into watching that, into doing the review for that.
Black Widow. Spider. Okay.
Robert, did you just say arachnid rock? Like you combine arachnid and Ragnarok together?
No, I said arachnophobia, but that's a good segue as well.
I like Thor Ragnarok. Or I don't even know how you could say it. Ragnarok.
It's when Mjolnir thinks Spider-Man is worthy. That's the spin-off.
Man.
Wow, we got a movie. Spoilers.
If we see this in comics or something Marvel, we're copywriting. We're getting our royalties.
Copyright now. I really enjoyed this film. I found Homecoming was I enjoyed Homecoming, but I find it slow. And I don't know, I didn't leave Homecoming feeling super excited. While this one, from start to finish, I felt like I was on this awesome ride of an adventure, and I feel like they developed the characters really well. And I think it also really showed how far they've come. That, like, look, in my mind, Mysterio could never work on film. Like, you look at him in the comics and you think, how can you bring that to the screen? Like, he's a guy with a fishbowl head, and they pulled it off so well. And I'll go into later, but I felt like the themes in this movie were very deep, and like, I'm a sucker for great themes. And yeah, honestly, this is a film that I have mainly positives to say about it. And I think even like the negatives I had in Homecoming, which was so many characters that were undeveloped and more were just, I don't know what you call it when you're not really a character. You're just, he's that guy in a movie and she's that person in the movie.
Yeah.
I feel like in this one, they were actually fleshed out characters.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. It was funny because it was a weird film that ended on, because I think we thought, this will give us the answers for what Phase 4 is going to be. But it basically was the same thing as coming off Endgame, which is what's happening next. And they kind of made a joke about that. And I think a lot of people criticized it, saying, we didn't get our answers. But when you think about it, it's still a high school movie in a way. So it's not really a film you could give the answers to Endgame or give the answers about it. So it was a nice send-off for Phase 3 and left us anticipating Phase 4 in the sense of not knowing what to expect.
That's true. Actually, on that, I think you talked about in Homecoming how they were just character tropes rather than properly developing these different characters in Homecoming. And yeah, I agree with you. I think I'll go into my worthy bits, I guess. All the high school stuff and the cliches and the different character tropes, I didn't find them as bothersome this time around. I think because I was kind of used to them, but also it was like a different environment. Like it was a summer vacation, but in Europe, which was like different in a sense. And they were developed a bit better.
Well,
Yeah.
I felt like the first one was like, okay, let's get the Breakfast Club and
Yeah.
bring it to this movie. While this one was like, let's just trust the actors to do what they do best. That's how I felt more with it.
Yeah. I definitely agree. And I actually, I didn't mind some of the humor in this one. I mean, the relationships and whatnot was still a bit
Yeah,
childish, but
I didn't care for that.
yeah,
That didn't bother me.
which I usually don't. And it's fair enough, but at the same time, I realize these are kids; these are like high school kids,
Yeah.
so it makes sense that like they chose to do these. They chose to act that way. But in regards to other positives, I I did love like the opening of this movie was pretty much telling us what we're in for. We had that scene in Mexico where that Sandman type elemental attacks, and then they do like a slight show of Mysterio, Fury, and Hill, and who are Skrulls. And I thought that was like a good taste of what we were about to get, and then as soon as that ends, it goes to this like poorly edited high school tribute or towards the Avengers, which is really funny, with like a scene from like Google Images and stuff like that, with like really cheesy music. I really like that. That type of humor. It just worked because like I think, well, not at the time, even now, memes are a huge thing. So when you have stuff like that, it just like it fits so well the high school vibe.
That scene, like when WandaVision came out, everyone was like, "Oh, well, they actually finally did the blip right," because they were saying, "Oh, you know, Far From Home ruined it because they made a joke of it." But again, it's like these are high school kids; they don't really understand. I don't know. I can't say that like they don't live with consequences, but that's maybe how they would have approached it in like a high school PC setting where you don't want to like freak everyone out. You know, they'll be like, "Oh, wow, this happened."
Yeah. I mean, it's their way of processing things in a way as well.
Yeah.
I think the deeper themes in this movie were really good, especially because the way they're developing Spider-Man. Now, again, I know Grant and some of the others may not really like the fact that they were calling Peter Parker the next Tony Stark, which is literally like one of the lines in the movies. But to me, it was more like a passing of the torch rather than him like being the next like Tony Stark. It was like he was embracing Tony's legacy, but he's in a way he's Tony's prodigy, and it's like, yeah, again, that passing of the torch. And I think the use of Edith was really smart. I really liked those parts of the movie, and yeah, just that general theme of moving forward with who you are, but also it was like the opposite of Homecoming, where Peter was like, I want to do more for the Avengers, whereas in this one, he was like, he just wanted a break from the Avengers. So I like that contrast, and again, that development, and I guess him learning that he actually has to take responsibility because he is now an Avenger, and I guess these things got to happen. I mean, he's still a high school kid, but I think like the fact is they recognize he's capable. So I got to say props to Tom Holland and props to the writers for developing Spider-Man's story as well in this.
But that's it. Like the first one was all about this is what I want, this is what I want. And this one's now like he's been through the looking glass, he's seen it, and he's like, no, I'm not ready for this. But people are saying, no, you are. But he's like, no, you don't understand, I'm not. And I think it's just about him learning, him understanding what he is capable of, him learning what he's not capable of, and knowing where to put the boundaries. And that's what's so interesting for his character. And for most of the film, I felt like they were saying, not so much for most of the film, and we'll touch on this later, because there's one scene that I was like, please, I wish you didn't do that. But most of the film, I felt like people were saying, are you the next Iron Man? He's like, what? Well, why are people asking me that? And I think, again, that was interesting to me, not so much that he was the next Iron Man, but this idea, you know, it's like, it's sort of like meta on our own world in like, you know, oh, you like, you know, with the actors, how they're constantly changing the actors and people having to step up to the mantle, like, oh, you the next Captain America, you the next Batman. And society's like, no, I'm trying to do my own thing. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing. And I felt that was pretty interesting.
Which seems like the direction Phase 4 is going with certain characters like Falcon and him taking up the mantle of Captain America. And Bucky even. And probably others as well. But I guess we haven't really dove deep into those because Phase 4 kind of just started. The other just few other things I just want to talk about positives. The CGI was mind blowing in this. They actually got
True.
Mysterio's illusions like on point. It was like the video game.
I
It
know
was like
this
the old
isn't real.
cartoons. I was actually like, this is sick. So that was awesome. And I think the payoffs were pretty smart in this. How they were using like Tony Stark's like former employees as like this whole Mysterio conglomerate. It wasn't just one guy, and they were all people that, again, it was like a consequence of something Tony had done in a way. So I like that. I will say it did seem a bit retconned in some bits, like regarding Tony Stark, but I think for
I
this
feel like it's
movie-
always going to feel like that, no
Yeah,
matter
yeah.
what.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But it worked for this movie. I mean, like the one, I still have mixed feelings about the whole thing in Iron Man 2, how that kid is Peter Parker. Like that's
I don't think that's real. I think that's just Feige being like, yeah, sure, if you want to believe that, that's
Yeah,
fine. Like,
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
like that is just a bit of a stretch. And then the last thing for me, again, Talos.
Haley, I hope your mission is going well. We gave the glasses to Parker.
Him as Fury,
about a
like
week
the
ago,
whole
like he
the whole
said,
movie,
and,
Fury was off, and the
that's
fact that it
very
was
touching.
Talos the whole time was just perfect.
Yeah, you can't touch
It kind of like
Talos.
made me appreciate Captain Marvel a bit more, and well, I already liked Talos from then anyway, so that was good. It also opens up a whole new avenue for Skrulls in a sense as well. 'Cause, yeah,
Yes.
we saw Fury on the ship with all them Skrulls, and I don't know, I guess the cosmic element, but yeah, it was a good tease, if anything. Yeah, those are my worthy bits. Blake, did you have any?
That probably wraps it up. Like that's pretty much the positives of the movie. That I can remember. You just watched it today, so you can remember a lot more than I can. But yeah, like for me, it was like that the ending, like the opening into that whole new portion of Marvel.
Mexico.
Brazil.
They finally went to Mexico.
And
Finally
then
got
like
back to South America.
yeah, and they sort
Brazil's
of
just
dropped
around the corner,
hints.
man.
And they drop hints of the multiverse as well, don't they?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
like alternate realities or something. So like
Yeah.
we sort of knew it was coming, but it was cool. Like even though we realized that it's like he's lying about it, but it was cool just for a second thinking that they were introducing it that early. We didn't quite realize that they were going to go crazy with it like they just did.
I have thoughts on that, but I'll save it.
For what the negatives of the movie.
Yeah.
No, he's gonna say it for the Eternals podcast. Just randomly drop it in there.
But like the acting was good. Pretty much what you boys said. Like there isn't a whole lot to add on to that would have any significance.
Did you have any more, David?
Yeah, it's just hard to know what to save and what to save. But I think what I will touch on is, I don't know, everyone's constantly criticizing these films in the sense of saying, why is Peter always fighting Tony Stark's villains? And why does he always have a mentor? And to start with, people need to remember that this is the third reboot of Spider-Man, and you have to do something different with it. And the second thing is to remember, why would Peter at this stage have these sort of villains? Like, I understand, like, yeah, there's comic stories and all that, but to me, it makes sense the way they've set it up, and it's similar to the old Spider-Mans, which is a lot of the villains Peter fights, they don't actually hate Peter. You know, like you've seen with like Lizard and to like Green Goblin and even Doc Ock, like they don't hate Peter. They just have their own things going on, and Peter's in the way. And that's how I kind of feel. Even like with Vulture in the last one, again, he didn't hate Peter. He was like, oh, you know, I like you, but you're in my way, and you need to stay out. And the same thing I see with Mysterio. Like, yes, you know, I think, and I'll go into it later, but I don't actually believe Mysterio has a vendetta against Peter in this movie. I think he actually generally wanted what was best for Peter. But again, Peter got in the way of his own ego. Peter got in the way of his plans. And again, he ended up being collateral damage at that. So I enjoyed that aspect that they bring to these movies. So, and yeah, I'll touch on that more. But yeah, So, and like, yeah, we've already mentioned it, the cast, and honestly, I'll say this more later, but the teachers, like Mr. Dell and Mr. Harrington,
Yes.
seriously, those guys, Harrington didn't really do it for me much in the first one, but in this one, I was like, you guys, like, you actually remind me of the teachers I had in school. Like,
Yeah.
like you guys, yeah. So, yeah.
That's so true. Yeah, yeah. All right.
Yeah, I forgot they were in the movie.
Yeah, they're not the most memorable characters, but they did add a lot for me as well. Okay, we'll move on to the next segment, which is I'm always angry. Negatives. David, did you want to kick it off?
Yes. Okay, so the first negative is that scene with Peter when they're talking, where he's sitting down with Happy, and it's a fantastic scene where
You're not Iron
Happy's
Man.
saying you're not Iron Man.
You're never
Even
gonna be Iron
Tony, struggled to being Iron Man. Yeah, and he's bringing
Nobody
the
can live
reality
up
of the
to
situation like that. You guys,
Not
that's
even
great.
Tony.
You've nailed it. And then straight
Tony was
after,
my best friend.
you have the
And he was a
AC/DC
mess.
music playing,
He
and then you
second-guessed
got
everything
Peter,
he did. He was
playing
all over
with
the
the
place.
gadgets, and then Happy
The
looking
one
at
thing
him
that he did
being
that he
like,
didn't second-guess was
forget
picking
everything I
you.
said. He's Iron Man. That's what that look in his eye. And I'm like, why would you do this? Like, you just undid everything. You undid the premise of this movie to me. So,
Yeah.
that
was going to be one of my negatives as well, but I really tried to understand maybe a bit of what they were trying to do in this scene. And in this scene, Peter actually says, "I love Led Zeppelin," which goes to show again, he's not Tony. So even though Happy did that for him, it's still like, it's still Peter putting his own twist on things. Like, the fact is he's making his own suit. But yeah, the choice of song as well was Back in Black, which is the first song in Iron Man 1.
Yeah.
A bit of a gamble as well, because it really is Tony's song, but it did look, the way Happy looks at him, it's like, is he saying this guy's the next Tony, or is he trying to say Tony would be proud of who this kid's becoming?
Yeah. I mean,
But,
they could have made it a bit more, clearer. But again, I think it was just because in the trailers, they were making it look like, he's going to be the next Iron Man. And then when the movie did such a good job of being like, no, he's not. This is just, a pressure thing, and that he's going to be his own person. That the scene just was like,
I felt the same way, to be honest. It was just like,
I guess the only other negative I have for this film is, like, look, I like the twist. It works really well in regards to Nick Fury, the Skrulls. I guess my only thing is I don't feel Maria Hill. This is a nitpick, but I feel like Kobe Smulders does a great job as Maria Hill, and that's saying a lot from me, who is not a fan of her as Robin in How I Met Your Mother. And I feel like she's someone that should get their due. Like, I think she actually brings a lot to that role, and I think they can do a lot more with her as a character. So I don't know. I feel like she just keeps getting pushed to the side in these movies. And I'm not saying like you have to have a Maria Hill movie, but like, I don't know, even if you had like a show, or maybe they'll do it in a Secret Invasion. But I just feel like, again, it was like, oh, Maria Hill's back. I wonder if they're going to explore her. It's like, nah, it wasn't even Maria Hill to begin with. So that was my only other. But that's a bit of a nitpick. But that's, yeah.
I mean, one day she's going to be Malika's background, and we just need a movie to allow her that opportunity.
That's it.
Or a TV show.
What do you think, Malika? Like, I don't know, because you've watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that. What do you think in regards to Maria Hill?
She's in it in the earlier part, I think. I actually can't remember, because they're up to, like, they did what, like 7 seasons?
I'm up to roughly around season 2, and she's rocked up a few times. But again, they don't explore her the same way they do with Nick Fury, I find. And I feel like she's like a cool character. But I don't know. Like, better than Phil Coulson in my.
I'm sure they'll bring her in.
We talked about her. Yeah, we talked about her a bit before, but like, I drew from my knowledge of her in cartoons and in video games, and she takes over when Nick Fury goes AWOL, or kind of Nick Fury kind of goes, he becomes like a fugitive in a sense, and her taking up the role was like very convincing. She's really like, it fits, like she's real tough, like, and he actually like, I don't mind her character, but I don't really know what she's like in the comics. I haven't
I'm
really
not
read
sure.
much of Shield stuff, so I don't know.
Yeah, no.
But there's definitely a lot I feel like they could do with her. It's a bit hard now because Shield is gone. So, like, I don't know how they move forward.
But they keep, like we saw in Black Widow,
It's
how they
sword.
brought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I got this wrong. I'm pretty sure the guy helping Black Widow was a Shield agent.
Mm.
So the idea that these guys are like acting as more like mercenaries now, like agents for hire around the world, like.
Well,
I don't know. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind if she's like leading some underground kind of group kind of thing, which
not like Sharon Carter, maybe.
yeah, 100% not like Sharon Carter. It'd be nice, yeah. But yeah, I actually wouldn't mind if MCU did their own kind of twist again to a potential story with Maria Hill.
Yeah, honestly, I think they're my only nitpicks with this film. I like the rest of it. So yeah.
Malika, do you have any you can remember?
I think the only thing that sort of annoyed me was, and like it is because we forget that they are teenagers, etc., and going through the same things that many of us went through. But a lot of like that relationship stuff, and we'll call it like the C story of the movie, just didn't bother me. Like they could have cut it out of the movie completely, and it had no effect on me.
Yeah.
Like you just want to go back to the Mysterio action. Like you don't care about what's happening on the side. Like when they go to the opera, which is so I can remember that scene for some reason. Like they go to the opera, and it's like this whole big thing here. He has to leave her. It's like, bro, just go. Like we don't care. Like it has no effect if Mary Jane. Wait, she's Mary Jane, isn't she?
I don't know. They keep calling her
Or is
MJ.
she Gwen?
She's Michelle Jones, but she's MJ, so she's like a new version of
Yeah.
Mary Jane.
Right.
They haven't really
Michelle
acknowledged her as Mary Jane. It's just MJ.
Oh, right.
But that's
Yeah.
just like it's the same nickname.
Well, her real name's Michelle Jones in the movies.
Yeah.
So it's
Michael Jackson.
yeah.
I think we made that joke last time.
But yeah, like it doesn't, like those sort of things don't really bother me. Like I don't care.
Yeah.
Or even that friend that like bullies him. Like it does have a
He's
bit of
just
humor
awesome,
in it in the
okay?
movie,
He
but again,
protects the
it's like
neighborhood
that little
and,
spoiled Italian
he's
kid or whatever
inspiring.
he
He
is.
inspires me to be a
Flash,
better
yeah.
man.
Yeah, but what about the whole thing about? Okay, so example, right? That's I don't know if you remember this, Malika, but that scene where the guy's trying to set up Peter and be like, oh, you know, he was in the bathroom taking photos of this woman, and then they flipped it on him, and they're like, why are you taking photos of people in the bathroom? And they're like, yeah,
cool
dude, what's
teacher
up with
right
that? And then
gotta
Mr.
stop
Dell
doing that,
comes in,
okay?
and he's like,
It is weird.
yeah, I'm trying to be the
falls
cool
in the
teacher.
bathroom.
I don't know.
Urinal or stalls.
I would agree
Okay?
with you
Look at
on Homecoming. I'm like, this is not working, but I felt like it worked a bit more for me in this. Well, it worked a lot for me in this film,
well,
but yeah,
the bits of humor I didn't mind. There were bits where I just like I didn't care for it. Like
okay,
you could have slashed some of those bits. Like I said, you could have slashed them out of the movie and it would make no difference.
yeah.
And even some of that humor, like it was good, but like me.
I think it's just it's just Marvel trying to keep that balanced, you know, and appeal to all audiences.
Yeah.
But also it does make sense for the storyline because Peter is however old he is, 17 or whatever.
Yeah. And he's just missed 5 years. He's got a lot of catching up to do.
yeah. But I don't know. Like David, I was a bit more on board with it this time round. But yeah, I do agree. There are some bits I don't really care about.
Well, I liked, like, even with Ned, I liked the fact that he wasn't really that invested with Peter in this movie. Like, it annoyed me in the last one. He's like, he was just Peter's fanboy the whole time. Like, oh, you're Spider-Man. I want to be Spider-Man's side guy. Well, in this one, he was having his own stuff going on, his own.
Yeah,
and
they actually gave him like family drama, like in regards to his mother or something.
Oh no, that was Flash. I'm talking about his other mate.
Oh, Brad?
No.
Oh, Ned.
Yeah,
Ned.
Wong
right.
2.0.
Yeah, and I don't know, like even
That guy's
his relation
Filipino.
with Betty. Like you guys remember from Cedar's days, how many times have we saw that relationship? It's like,
It was a fling, yeah.
yeah.
It was that I mean, this time around, I felt like some of it was a bit forced, but like the whole thing was hilarious. Like by the end of it, he's like, "Well,
We broke
at the end of this, you become a man, and
why?
she's become a
Men
woman.
and women
We
go
go our
apart,
separate ways."
but
Like
the journey they
apparently
share
they've
together
grown so
will
much
always
in
be a
this
part of
like
them.
1 week holiday or
You are
whatever.
so
it was.
wise.
Thank you.
Which is funny, but it's high school humor.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. All right. So my negatives. I didn't have much either. Malika talked about it, the whole multiverse thing. I was a bit disappointed, to be honest, because
But it
I'm
didn't
sorry,
happen.
good world.
Mr.
I remember
Beck
we saw it in the
from Earth.
trailers, and then
Just
like,
yours.
they've acknowledged
There
the
are multiple
multiverse. So
realities.
there was a
Peter.
tease, and
This
he
is
even talks
Earth
about
Dimension
Earth
616. I'm from Earth
which is supposedly
833.
where he's from.
I'm
But
sorry, you're
again,
saying
it's
there's
all
a
part of
multiverse?
his cover up, and I was disappointed, but at the same time, I think it just paid off well for Mysterio's like storyline. So I understood why they did it, but it's just like Marvel does these things to us where they tease something, but it's not actually going to be it, which has been the case with WandaVision and a bit with Falcon and Winter Soldier, which we may get into. But yeah, there was that, and the other thing was calling it the blip.
They called
I
it
don't
the
like
blip.
it being called the blip.
Those of us who blipped away and came back the same age.
I don't know. Maybe it was the high school thing, but
It was supposed to be the desolation.
Don't mind the sausage dog's head.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was like part of the effect. Like you just had a background where a sausage dog rocks up.
Sausage dog.
like to us, it's the snap. All right, it's not the blip or whatever. The blip reminds me of one of those Zeppelins.
A blimp.
Yeah, a blimp. That's the one.
I thought they were going to keep it to this movie, but then it's rocked up in other movies.
Yeah, it has,
Now,
and I can't get on board with it. It sounds like a high school thing. So
yeah.
them calling it that has kind of ruined it for me a little bit. But again, it has had no real effect on the movie. The last thing is, I guess, kind of the placement of this movie. I got to talk about it. It's a bit weird that it's after Endgame, but Endgame feels like, again, it feels like that's supposed to be the end of the Infinity Saga. It does make sense. Like, I guess they're still like addressing things or ending things, but it feels like this should have been the start of Phase 4 in a way, and Black Widow should have been in Phase 3. But they do add elements that make it make sense towards being the phase it's within. So I can't really like hate it for that too much.
I think what I've heard Sony was like, and that's the problem with Sony owning Spider-Man, which is they're like, we need a Spider-Man movie ASAP. And they're like, well, we can't, because if people know a Spider-Man's movie's coming, it's going to ruin the spoiler for Infinity War. They're like, nah, we need one ASAP. So that's more of a negotiation issue.
Yeah, come on, Sony. Get your expletives.
Give up some money. Throw your expenses out the window.
I mean, they have all these other movies, which makes it even more confusing, like Venom and then Mobius.
It's all about Men in Black International, man. It didn't work, so they're like, man, we got to just throw everything into Spider-Man.
Yeah, apparently, but it's weird that it still works for them because we enjoy Venom, and I feel like we're gonna enjoy Mobius. So,
well, even the fact that the guy who played Quicksilver is playing Craven, so it's like, is this in the MCU? Like, how's this all working? It's actually. I am keen for the next Spider-Man. On that note, it feels like it's going to be something else. And it feels like we're actually going to get the multiverse. Or we already have. If you haven't seen Loki, watch it. Spoilers. Okay, MVP. Malika, you want to kick it off with this one?
Yeah. Sorry, I was just looking at some. Definitely Mysterio. What's his name?
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah, he carries this movie for me.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Like, what's his name does a great job. Spider-Man. I was about to say Tobey Maguire then for a second.
We're not up to the rating yet, man.
Yeah, I know. Like, he does a great job. But, like I said, if Mysterio was a different actor, I don't think the movie would have gone the way it did. Like Jake definitely carries it, and they have like the actors they got along. I think like Jake and Tom Holland.
Yeah, they do.
Like yeah, like they have. You can tell that they're not like, well, I'll say enemies, but like that they even in real life they have the chemistry.
Yeah, they do.
And that pays off definitely. His interactions, like even like him wearing that suit, like he pulls that off quite well. And even though like it's all a revenge plot, you don't see him get too like as he's Mysterio. You don't see emotion. Like he plays it quite well. And then the moment he takes the Mysterio suit off, he's back to being like that worker guy. Like he plays the dual character very well. Like Mysterio brings what you want to this movie. I think it could have turned out very different. I think if Mysterio wasn't MVP, I don't really know how else. I don't really know how else to.
That's
what I feel.
Yeah, I agree. I'm on board, and Mysterio is my MVP as well. It was surprising to me that they brought in, actually, it was surprising to me that Jake Gyllenhaal, however you say it, he actually took on this role. Because usually he does like indie type movies, or he's not really up for these big franchises that are mainstream. He's not up for the mainstream stuff. So it was surprising to me to see him in this, and the dude's range is insane.
It's a Persia, mate. That's where it all started.
Oh, that's one of my guilty pleasure movies. Also because of Gemma Arterton. Yeah, just in regards to Mysterio, yeah, you pretty much said it. He does. It would have been. I'm not sure it would have been as well received if it wasn't for him. Well, for me personally, anyway. I actually already knew the twist coming into this movie because I know Mysterio very, very well, and they followed that story like quite on point. The only difference is the element of Tony Stark, which was a good like mix. Suits the MCU well. But even though knowing that he was going to use illusions and he was going to be a bad guy, I was on board for every minute of it. Like I enjoyed every aspect, and yeah, he pulled off both well. I remember thinking that hero that you wanted him to be, but also the villain that he actually was. Like he had that you could see that psychotic side, but also that charming side that got along with Peter.
Like in Prince of Persia.
Like in Prince of Persia. But that's just Jake. His performance is flawless in this, which like isn't really a surprise, to be honest. And I also like, again, adding on to him, like Mysterio wasn't just him. It was this whole group of people that Tony Stark affected to some capacity. So that was clever. I think in the comics, he was more of a theater actor or something. That's why he's really good at the theatrics. In this, though, he was good at the theatrics. He was almost, again, like Tony Stark in a way. Like he's just because of his charisma and his ability to like draw people. But again, he was his own person, and I think it was just perfect for Spider-Man again, where it's because my issue in the previous one was that Vulture was again a result of kind of like Tony or kind of thing, or the Avengers kind of messing with him, and then Spider-Man was just in the mix, and he just had to get out of the way. So I like that they continue on that type of thing, but it was still a different twist on it because there was a bit more weight in comparison, if you ask me, compared to this one. Or maybe I just liked it more. And I think it's a good tell that if I start obsessing over Jake Gyllenhaal after watching this movie and like start watching like numerous interviews of him, then that's probably a good sign that he did well.
Yeah, that's true.
Honorable mention, Tom Holland. I don't think I need to say more. He's Spider-Man. He's like a great Spider-Man. He's developed well and he portrays his role well. And the other one is Edith.
Edith stands for
if you didn't leave the cinema putting on a pair of glasses saying, Edith, then you need to watch the movie again till you do. All right. David, who's your MVP?
When me, you, and Caleb did this in Star Wars, it was Qui-Gon Jinn. And I was waiting for it to happen in the MCU, and it's come where the three of us all agree it's Mysterio.
Finally.
It's a shame the other boys aren't here to see it. But look, to me, like, getting Jake Gyllenhaal is almost equivalent with them getting Leonardo DiCaprio in this movie, because like it's this idea of an actor who isn't known for doing movies like this, just known for that indie type feel, and it's like, wow, you're coming to do this and you're doing this character, which I said, like, you know, in my head that this is not going to work on screen, and they did him so well. And like that whole scene, when he's putting Peter through those illusions, it reminded me of when I saw Mysterio in a cartoon when I was younger, and I remember feeling scared in that scene, thinking, oh my gosh, what's happening? And I refelt that in that scene. I'm like, you guys have done it. Like, you've done Mysterio, not only comic book accurate, but you've made him look so awesome in this film. And what I like about Mysterio in this is, again, is that whole idea, and that's what I was trying to say before, is that he doesn't, in my mind, I once spoke to a friend of mine who said that they had to be the smartest person in the room. They had to make sure everyone knew they were the smartest person in the room. While, say, someone they knew is the smartest person in the room, but didn't care if people knew if they were or not, rather they didn't know. To me, that's Tony Stark and Mysterio. Tony Stark is the smartest man in the room. He doesn't care. He doesn't need to tell you. Mysterio, he's so insecure, he needs you to know. And the fact that Tony gets his what was it called? The buff. Yeah. And is like, makes fun of it, makes him feel like inferior, and sets up his journey to be like, I'm going to prove I'm the smartest person. I'm going to outsmart the Avengers. I'm going to outsmart the whole system. And it's funny because what's so amazing about all that is I actually believe he generally wants Peter to, like, when he's like, go get the girl, go, you know, enjoy your life, be a kid. I think he generally wants that for him. And he's thinking, this is all working out great. You get what you want. I get what I want. You don't need to worry about what I'm doing. You know, even like that when he's like, oh, poor kid and all that, even though he sounds very sinister when he's saying it, I think he actually means it. Yeah. But when Peter comes back and causes that trouble, and you can see the conflict in him when he's yelling at Peter. He's like, I try to make it better for you. I try to, and now you're making me do this. But at the same time, he's not like Vulture, who is sympathetic to Peter. He's like, yeah, I'm feel bad you're in the way, but I am so obsessed with my own ego. I'm going to do horrible things. And even like at the end, when he does end up screwing Peter over and letting the whole world know he's Spider-Man, again, I don't actually believe that's him hating Peter. I think it's like, I need to win. I need to be the smartest man in the room. And unfortunately, again, you're the collateral. This is how I win. It just, unfortunately, you were my opponent. And that's what I love. And like, the last thing I'll say is, you could like look at his performance when he comes out as Mysterio as camp, but it works for his character because even though it's like cartoony, it works in the mindset he's in, and he's able to ground it in the mindset he's in. Like Mark said, you know, he can go from being just normal gentleman to just being outlandish because in a way he is playing a role, and like you said, he is unstable. And so it is interesting to see him multifaceted like that. People say that they think, oh, maybe Mysterio's not dead. Maybe he's still alive. I like the fact that he stays dead, even though I like his character, just because I like that last bit. And when he's like, oh, you know, you're going to see Peter, people believe in anything now because, again, it's just such a chilling line to be like, we're at this point in the MCU where anything's possible, and someone like him can come and take advantage of that. And I don't know, it just works well, just makes his character so concise.
Yeah, actually, two things. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said insecurities. And I actually didn't think about that. Yeah, he's very insecure in this movie about himself. So he feels the need to promote everything about himself as like, even though it's not actually him, it's this persona of Mysterio. He feels that need to be let out into the world. So yeah, that was actually a really good point, and it makes sense because it adds a bit more because I thought he was just a bit psychotic. So.
No.
Yeah.
But even like the whole thing with Nick Fury, I like it's not like he wants to kill Nick Fury because he has a vendetta against him.
Yeah,
he wants
yeah.
to kill him because he knows the guy can actually come after him. He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
this guy can bring me down if he finds out what I'm actually doing.
Yeah,
Again,
exactly.
and that plays into his insecurities.
Yeah. And the other thing, which you touched on, the line he says about people will believe anything. It's become true in the MCU. Like even
Yeah.
now, we have all these theories that we chuck out there, and some of them don't even happen. So we we do believe pretty much
And-
anything.
Your whole thing about the multiverse, even though I agree with you, I think I needed that personally because that led me to believe like maybe he's a Mysterio from an alternate universe that's actually good. I guess it was obvious that he was bad, but I guess I was willing to go along and be like, maybe he's not. But like I said, when I found out he was bad, I still enjoyed it because it was like,
Yeah.
this is still a great twist. Like this is still, and even how they play with the bar scene, it wasn't just exposition. That they made that scene fun.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I think that's Jake, where you'd be on board regardless of if he was a good guy or the bad guy.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and it probably was a bit too soon anyway to chuck in a multiverse, especially for a movie like this one.
Yeah.
It is just on that. Sorry, it is funny, like some of what you were saying, but then his whole shtick is he hides behind illusions.
Well,
It's just the irony of it. Like his whole thing is illusions, but everything he does has to be so public, and like he has to win, and like it's everything, but it's like the whole time just illusions, and they're like just in front of him.
It's similar to
So he's basically an internet troll.
It's similar to
a real
Loki.
life name
He hides behind illusions
until he breaks down
but he uses
in
it.
the TV show.
But he uses it. Yeah, but he uses it against people, to I don't know, better himself in a sense. But then again, he's getting pretty deep. He's in his own illusion.
But that's it. Like even the fact that like he's not wanting to hurt people. He's like, oh yeah, I'll do this thing, and then I'll be the hero. And like, yeah, but thousands of people are going to die. He's like, yes, so. And it's not. I don't think it's because he wants them to die. Again, it's his own world, which is I don't feel emotion for other people. I've always been the guy at the back who's so smart and so that he's disconnected from his own emotions.
Yeah.
Like
That was a good line though. Never apologize for being the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
Which actually adds to his character very well.
Yeah, exactly.
All right,
Don't do that to yourself.
Master Assassin.
This is Loki. This is
Malika.
monsters and magic and nothing you were ever trained for.
Oh god. I've probably sort of said it. Like it's Spider-Man. Like as bad as it is, because it's his own movie.
Okay, yeah.
But like it is him. The sort of
isn't ideal.
because my MVP is Mysterio. I feel like it's his. Like it's not his movie, but he carries it.
Mm-hmm.
Where Spider-Man is almost the supporting role in this. And like, yeah, I know we've got Maria Hill, we've got Fury, we've got the Skrulls as they pop in, we've got his friends, like we've got all of those guys. But I do think that it's the combo of Mysterio and Spider-Man that makes this movie. And it's unlucky for Spider-Man that he's not the MVP of his own movie and he goes to Mysterio. So in that makes him the master assassin for me in this.
If there was an in-between, I'd probably put it there. Like between master assassin and MVP. I think to me, Spider-Man is still an MVP in his own, to me, in his own right. So
yeah,
I can't put him in that master assassin category of people, because there's definitely a lot of people that don't think he's an underrated character.
No, and yeah, I don't mean it in the sense that he's underrated.
Yeah.
I just in the sense that he should be MVP, but he's not, and so he slips into the next category.
I get you.
That's all.
But again, what number Spider-Man movie is this, even outside the MCU?
Right.
It's at the point where...
It's like number 7 or 8 or something.
Yeah, it's at the point where Spider-Man, still a great character, but...
We've seen
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually haven't watched any of the Garfield ones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I've finished at number 3 with Maguire. and then I've just gone straight into Tom Holland.
I think that was the same with a few of the other boys.
And like they
as
just
well.
didn't interest me. Like looking at like watching trailers or whatever, I was like, I don't really care about these Spider-Man movies.
You're gonna hate me, but even during my Marvel hate period, where I was like, "No, I'm off Marvel," I was loving those movies.
I rate him too, to be honest. I really
Yeah.
like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Mans.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've like there's a lot of people that do, but like for me, it was just like I'm Spider-Man saturated.
Yeah,
Like
you're
the only reason
Spider-Man
he's
down.
good, yeah, pretty much. Like the only reason he's good now is because it's critical, like not critical to MCU, but he's playing a big role.
He's Spider-Man.
And
big.
have you watched Enter the Spider-Verse?
Yeah, I like that. That was cool.
But what
I hope they make a second.
that like
But
doesn't
they-
that kind of
They had
throw your
Miles.
argument out on the?
They had Miles. It
Oh,
wasn't-
that's true.
Yeah, it was
wasn't-
different
Miles is
Spider-Man
different,
completely.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that was done really well, not gonna lie. That was
yeah, it was. Yeah,
I was pretty happy with that movie.
yeah.
It's the second will be great. Getting off topic here, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my master assassin.
All right,
Master Spider Assassin.
Mr. Fitzy, who's yours?
Look, I was on the train with you guys with Mysterio, when you guys were like, "Oh, he's finally being normal." But now I'm gonna like throw it out again with the Master Assassin.
Definitely one of the teachers. Or the
Yeah,
little
it's
Italian,
Mr.
or the
Dell.
Italian Latino kid.
Oh,
No, it's
okay.
Mr. Dell. I'm sorry, but like I know
Daryl
it's
Sullivan.
like what? They're pretty much the same character. And like it's not just because I'll let you guys laugh that one.
I just got Daryl's Sullivan.
It took you long enough, bro.
No, because David said Dell. The guy's name's
I said Dell, yeah.
Mr.
Oh, I heard
Dell,
Daryl.
yeah.
I thought because they were both science teachers. Is
That's
Dell a science?
actually another
Yeah.
connection, though.
I just heard Daryl. That's why I said it.
But yeah, it's because like look, every line for me that came out of his mouth was funny. Like when you're in Rome, you act like the Romans, but when you're in Venice, your socks get wet. Like it's a weird line, but it works for me. And even
It's a typical teacher.
yeah, but even like with and then when he's like, "What do you think it is?" Like, in my scientific opinion, it's witches. And like it's always like, "Oh, the witches are back," and then like the Power Rangers joke. I don't. It just works for me. And even like that whole scene between him and Harrington, where he's like, "Oh well, Mr. Dale," and Mr. Dale's like, "No, don't you bring me to this." He's like, "I'm trying my best, Julius," and I'm like, I can see this happening at my school. I can see like if it all went wrong, the teachers would be like, "Look, we just got paid to be here. We don't know. We're willing to run away if possible." But yeah, I don't know. I found him funny, and again, when I read the cast of No Way Home, I saw he was back, and I don't know. He just brings. I think it's hard for when you bring in a new character for them to like fit in with all that's going on. It could have been like, "Oh, another teacher, so what?" But I was like, "Nah, I found him even funnier than the first teacher they had in the first movie." So it's Mr. Dell for me.
So, David, you're actually not too off base because my Master Assassins are actually the teachers as well. I thought I'd chuck
finally.
a David and go for the teachers. I'll go for someone like heaps left field. But yeah, they were mine. They were hilarious. I loved every bit they had. Like honorable mentions to Aunt May and Happy.
Are you
like,
dating?
I wouldn't have minded. I like that they had their own fling or whatever it was as well.
Oh, yeah.
And Peter was like, "All right, we need to have a serious
I still
conversation."
don't know where it's going to go.
Open
What's
to
going
wherever
on?
it might lead,
So I did like that bit, and
to share.
I think just in regards to that, Aunt May is so much better when she knows Peter is Spider-Man. Like
Yeah.
I like the way she is when she's aware. And Marissa Tomei relates a lot better to Tom Holland. Their chemistry, it's different. If I can say, like 'cause they seem more like besties rather than aunt and nephew, which works in the other movies. But in this one, I like that it was different, and I like the way they related.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's hard now because we've seen it's even like the Martha Kent role in Superman. It's like we've seen that role so many times. Like to be honest, I would like to see in No Way Home, Aunt May be like a Sarah Connor character. Like I know that seems out there, but just like do something a bit new, like make the characters like I like how into the Spider-Verse
Yeah.
Aunt May was in control of the secret lair, and like she was like, you know, Alfred to Spider-Man. I was like, do something like that, do something new. So I still like Aunt May. It's just more, again, oversaturation of Spider-Man. But yeah.
And then Happy's just Happy, you know. He's always there for Spider-Man. He is like that dad, and he's acting the way he did for Peter, but like the way he did for Tony, but with Peter. Except with Peter, Peter's like a kid, so he has to act as that kind of father figure in a way, maybe even uncle. Who knows? But yeah, I didn't mind that. But yeah, they're not my master assassins. It's the teachers. I don't know how much more I can add to the scenes with Mr. Dell, Mr. Harrington. I love this story about how his wife cheated on him.
That was good.
But she pretended to be.
It was so
snapped.
sad. It was so great.
It wasn't even that funny, but one that made me laugh heaps was when he tried to take a photo of himself and he's holding the camera above the lake and he gets the photo but he drops it into the water. Like, it was like Mr. Bean type humor, and I actually really like that. And then they have a conversation about like the cloud elemental, the illusion in London, and Mr. Dell's like, it's like the Power Rangers, they're coming together. And he's like, no, you're talking about Voltron. And I was just like, far out.
But even Mr. Dell's whole thing like, with Flash, where he's like, yeah, you gotta stop taking photos of people in the bathroom. It's weird. No urinals, no stalls. It's like, you don't need to have that conversation. He feels the need. He's like, I'm being the cool teacher.
I think I just like that they have these, just like, they don't know how to relate to students or kids, but like they show
all to people.
They show genuine concern, but they also, there's a bit of a lack because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were definitely
Reminded me of some teachers.
yeah, exactly. Like they did the role well because it reminds us of teachers we had. But yeah, they're definitely, I feel like they're underrated characters because not many people remember them as well as enough as they should. All right, well, that's the Master Assassin category. We're in the last one, which is the Endgame.
Feel the righteous
quote and the rating. I'll get David to kick this one off, actually.
Yeah, honestly, that line in the end, sorry, I'm not going to be able to say it off by heart, but I'll try. When he, like he said, he was like, oh, you'll see, Peter, people have to believe. And these days, people believe in anything. And like I said, like to me, I think that's set what's going to come later because it's, again, it acknowledges where we're at with the MCU. You couldn't say that back in 2008 with Iron Man, but you can say that now. You're like, we're literally living in the impossible days. And now you can get away with anything. And the fact that he can reference the multiverse, and now we're literally talking about the multiverse in these movies. But at the same time, I think I'm going to get deep here. It's a reflection of characters like Mysterio, who are humans who live by illusions, are slowly becoming irrelevant as they're bringing in these super bads with actual powers. Like maybe in a way, Mysterio is a last stand for these villains who are just everyday people trying to do what they can because they know that they're going to be wiped out by the Kangs and the Thanoses of the world. So I'm going with that.
That's a good quote. And your Toby's out of Maguire's.
Look, I'm sad the other boys aren't here because this is actually going to be over 8. But at the same time,
can we guess?
Okay, but I will say this: if Tobey Maguire does not rock up in No Way Home, I'm going to retroactively take off Toby's off this movie because you can't take a Toby away. I need a Toby.
That's the whole reason we have this rating system. It's to manifest Toby into the MCU.
We're literally chanting Toby into these movies.
I'm going to guess, is it a 9?
No.
It's an 8.75.
It's an 8.5.
Too right.
Fair enough. And that makes sense. All right, Malika, have you got yours?
The one I do like, and you boys already said it.
Sorry.
Is the Mysterio to Peter Parker.
Don't ever apologize for being the smartest one in the room.
It's the don't apologize for being the smartest person in the room. And I quite like that one, just for real life as well, where like being smart is always throws you like it puts you in that, oh, you're a geek, you're a nerd, or whatever, or like people just think you're being arrogant or something because you're smart, but you're not. And a lot of people will hide their intelligence just so that they don't get judged for it, or people will think they've got like bloody Asperger's or something. So I do quite like that quote.
It does relate to real life in a way.
Yeah,
it's not just that, like not just don't apologize for being the smartest. Don't apologize for like any certain quality that people don't find. I never thought we'd get a deep dive out of Malika, but
I thought I'd get a swimming lesson from Dave's deep dives.
I think he earns a splash.
And then, I can't have my ratings. Oh.
You have Far From Home.
Yeah,
14th.
Oh.
Yeah.
What do I have Far From Home?
Third, I think.
Not including Infinity War and all that?
Including Infinity War. You had Infinity War 5th and Endgame 4th.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Blake of 14th. Before it, you have Ant-Man and Age of Ultron. After it, you have Winter Soldier.
Oh my god! I do hate this movies.
I would probably move that around. Not necessarily put it higher. Like as a movie, it's good. Like it's entertaining enough. As an MCU movie, it hasn't paid off yet.
Okay. You gave Ant-Man and Wasp a 7, if that's any help.
Did I?
Yeah.
It seems a bit low. Found that entertaining.
Just out of curiosity, if we're judging on an MCU movie, is it how much it pays off to the whole universe?
Our rating system doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, our rating system's bugging. Looking at that 7 I gave Ant-Man and Wasp, I'd probably put that higher. That's retarded.
How I've personally rated it is just how much I enjoy it within the context of the MCU.
Yeah, I'm rating it against every movie ever made.
Yeah, which is probably how we should have done it.
Yeah, probably.
No, it's good to have the different perspectives.
Yeah, except then our system's completely out of whack. There's nothing to benchmark it against.
Marks is based on whether he's in lockdown or not.
Yeah. I'll give this one a 7.3. Peter Hollins out of Tobey Maguire's.
Peter
Hollins.
Oh, what's his name?
How many Tom Parkers?
Seven.
Parker Garfields.
Parker Holland Garfield. And the only reason that it sits higher than Ant-Man and Wasp because it gets like a 0.5 bonus because of Marissa.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
like it's a little boost that it gets because she's in it. It's always good seeing her on screen again.
Imagine if the soundtrack was good.
It'll get like another 0.2.
All right. We'll go to mine. The quote I got is actually it's during like the start of the movie when it's Betty and the other guy who's doing the high school news reports.
As we draw this year to a
she
close,
says it's time to move on to a new phase of our lives. But then he's like, well, pray nothing crazy happens again. He's like, are the Avengers even like, are they even there anymore? Does anyone have a plan?
he's like screaming it.
It fits like within the context of the movie, but also like where they're going in the MCU. Like they are saying it's time to move on to phase 4, but like people are still like, how's this going to work without the Avengers anymore? Like without Tony, without Cap, without that. So without Thanos even. So I thought it was a good quote in relation to that because we're still wondering how phase 4 is going to go. And thankfully after Loki, we've been introduced to another big bad, which we're excited for. So like that's something, but in the context of the movie for Spider-Man, I guess it's like, he's had to move on from being Tony Stark, but instead becoming Spider-Man, which is who he is. So I like that in a sense. That it relates in so many ways and the direction everything is going. As for my Tobey Maguire's, I've had to give it because I like other movies a bit more. So I'm giving this a 9.5 9.47 Tobys out of 10 Maguires. So close to a 9.5. It's in between 9 and 10. I really enjoyed this movie. Again, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Good Gyllenhaal.
I don't know.
is the man. Okay.
Also, it got a little bonus for me because of Gyllenhaal's sister. She's not in it, but
She
Rachel?
died in Dark Knight.
Maggie.
Yeah.
All right. Effectively, that ends our podcast, and that's our last movie for Phase 3. We will finish off with our recap, which will definitely have all the boys on because kind of have to. It'd be weird without all of them on. We'll do our fantasy draft, and finally we can move on into the new phases, which is Phase 4. We do plan on doing the shows as well as the movies, since it seems now that the shows have a lot more weight. But I don't think we'll do episode by episode. We'll probably do season by season. But we definitely will be doing the movies. And we are looking to start off with Black Widow, which will be an interesting discussion, I feel. Because already in our group chat, there's been an explosion of opinions. So
It's a 9 for me.
Explosion of testosterone.
So yeah, that'll be a fun discussions moving forward. Again, thank you everyone. Thank you boys for joining me in this discussion. Thank you everyone for watching. I'm sorry that it was only a bit of a short one, but I don't know. I feel like we still covered this movie pretty well. So yeah.
Yeah, you went all right.
We did.
All right. So, usual sign off, boys. Since it was in Europe, do we want to do
Oh, really?
Thanks for watching.
Universal scale tipped toward balance.
Soon, there will only be the conquered and the conquerors.
Who are you in this vast multiverse? Open your eyes.